So dear students, this is the last class of our cardiovascular system with a very important clinical entity that is known as heart failure. When we discussed about the coronary circulation, I told you that coronary artery disease or CAD, is going to be extremely relevant in coming decades throughout your professional life, and one of the important outcome of CAD, one of the important outcome of coronary artery disease is heart failure. Not only that, heart failure happens quite frequently. Now, heart failure, as the name suggests, does not mean death of the patient. So please remember that heart failure is not synonymous with the death of the patient. Heart failure is quite a common condition, CAD related or non-CAD related. A person having an age group of 50 plus like me, a person having an age group of more than 50 years somehow suffer from some form of heart failure. So heart failure is quite common. And here we have to discuss the various aspects, a few various aspects of heart failure and its pathophysiological aspect. Now, first of all, what is the definition of heart failure? Now, definition of heart failure is quite complex. Definition of heart failure is quite complex and may not be comprehensible for you in totality for the time being. For the time being, it may not be comprehensible by you in totality. So, for your purpose, I will rather give you a simple definition of heart failure. Now, what is heart failure? Now, to understand heart failure, you need to know what is the function of heart. Simple function of heart is to supply blood to the tissue. That is the function of heart. So function of heart is to supply blood to the tissue. How they will supply blood to the tissue? Because supply of the blood to the tissue is always finely tuned. It is finely tuned. So there is not only supply of the blood to the tissue, but also a fine tuning of the supply pattern to the tissue. Every time we know, because our resource is constrained. There is a constraint of resource, only 5 liters of blood. So we have to distribute and redistribute the blood within the more active and less active tissue continuously. So there is heart not only supplies blood to the tissue, but also it do a function of fine tuning, distribution, redistribution pattern. Not only between the organ, but also in various level of activity. I just discussed you about the effect of exercise. So in various types of activity, the cardiac output will increase. Normal cardiac output at rest is 5 liters. In mild activity, it may be 7 liters. In moderate activity, it may be 15 liters. In a very severe activity or higher level activity, it may be 30 liters. So every time cardiac output will increase. As I am lying down in bed, my cardiac output is 5 liters, as I mentioned. Suppose I am walking, cardiac output will increase. Suppose I am climbing stairs up to a 2-story building, cardiac output will further increase. If I am climbing through the stairs in a 8-story building, my cardiac output will further increase, because our body need, our metabolic need of my body tissue will progressively increase with progressive increase in my activity. So this is a very important point which you must understand first to understand heart failure. So we are continuously enhancing our cardiac output. Our cardiovascular system is continuously increasing our cardiac output, my cardiac output, as my activity status is increasing from mild to moderate to severe. Now, what is heart failure? Now, with this backdrop, if we try to define heart failure may be defined as when a heart failed to perform or failed to deliver requisite amount of blood to the body incommensurate with its metabolic need. Please memorize it or write it. Please memorize it or write it. This is very, very vital. So, heart failure means, or heart failure may be defined as when heart or ventricle fails to requisite volume of blood incommensurate with the metabolic need of the body. So if we memorize this thing and if we understand this thing, then let it be explained further. So we can say, suppose somebody is in lying down posture, in supine posture, resting in the bed. The requisite cardiac output is 5 liter and heart can supply that. So he or she is normal. Suppose he or she is doing certain activity, cardiac output is increased to say 10 liter, incommensurate with his or her metabolic activity. So when he or she is walking fast, his or her metabolic activity is increased, and incommensurate with that metabolic activity, requisite cardiac output becomes 10 liter, and if the heart is capable of supply that 10 liter, he is not in failure. Now suppose that person has increased his activity too much and the required cardiac output becomes 20 liter. But if heart cannot supply that much cardiac output, then he is in failure. So failure may appear in a particular level of activity. A person may be perfectly normal in resting state. A person may be perfectly normal in mild activity. A person may be perfectly normal in a situation of moderate activity. But person's heart may fail to perform at the level of severe activity. Or in other words, if the situation deteriorates, he may not even perform at the moderate level. He may not even perform at the mild level. He may not even, or his or her heart may not even supply the requisite amount of cardiac output, say 10 liter, even in the mild level. Or even, the heart may not even perform or may not even capable of pumping even 5 liter of blood, even in resting state. Then he or she is in heart failure even during rest. So if we rehash the definition or if we recap the definition, so what is the definition of heart failure? Heart failure is defined as when heart failed to deliver requisite amount of blood incommensurate with the metabolic need. That is heart failure. And that depends upon the activity status and status of the heart. So if we now understand the definition of heart failure, I tell you, definition of heart failure may be further complicated. I am not entering into that kind of complication. Definition of heart failure may be further complicated. It is rather a bit simple definition. Now, with this understanding, let us try to classify heart failure. If I classify heart failure may be classified in several ways. Suppose this is heart. This is heart. This is systemic circulation. This is systemic circulation. This is systemic circulation. So from left ventricle to right atrium. Somewhere in the middle we make it make it blue, showing red blood and blue blood, and from right ventricle so in between there is systemic circulation, greater circulation. This is pulmonary circulation. Suppose somewhere is the lung, I can write lung. And this is system. S for system or SYST for system, and this is pulmonary. So this is in brief the circulatory tree which I have described and drawn so many times. Now how you can classify heart failure? Now let us try to understand the most easy one. Suppose there is left heart failure or left ventricular failure. So heart failure can be classified as left ventricular failure or right ventricular failure. Left heart failure or right heart failure. Left heart failure means left ventricular failure. Right heart failure means right ventricular failure. We sometimes write like that. LVH, LVF and RVF. Right ventricular failure and left ventricular failure like this. Now let us see what will happen to left ventricular failure. So if left ventricle fail to deliver adequate amount of blood into the aorta, if left ventricular becomes weak, or not I am saying how it is delivering less, I will discuss that later. Suppose left ventricle is failed to deliver adequate amount of blood to the aorta, so systemic circulation will get less amount of blood. What will happen? So blood will tend to accumulate into the left ventricle. More amount of blood will tend to accumulate into the left ventricle. So left ventricular end diastolic volume will increase, and left ventricular end systolic volume will also increase because left ventricle is failed to perform. So stroke volume will decrease. So left ventricular end diastolic volume will increase. Left ventricular end systolic volume will increase. If left ventricular end diastolic volume increases, what will happen? Left ventricle will try to contract more by Starling's principle, by Starling's law, by Frank Starling's law. So as the left ventricle is accumulating more and more end diastolic volume, it will tend to force more and more. But a point of time will come when it cannot do so. So then blood will tend to accumulate here. If left ventricular blood will tend to accumulate here, the left ventricular intracavitary pressure will rise. If left ventricular intracavitary pressure will rise, then left atrium to left ventricle pressure gradient will fall, or atrioventricular gradient will fall, will be reduced, and blood will accumulate in the left atrium. And if blood accumulates in the left atrium, blood will tend to accumulate into the lung. So there will be pulmonary bed, more amount of blood in the pulmonary circulation. That is known as pulmonary congestion. So there will be congestion of blood into the pulmonary circulation. So in case of LVF, there will be more amount of blood will accumulate into the pulmonary vascular bed. More amount of blood will accumulate into the pulmonary vascular bed, and there will be pulmonary congestion. And when there is pulmonary congestion, the pulmonary capillary hydrostatic pressure will increase. Normal pulmonary capillary hydrostatic pressure is quite low, and when pulmonary capillary hydrostatic pressure increases and it goes beyond the 25 millimeter of mercury, that is osmotic pressure, then fluid will come out of the pulmonary capillary and it will accumulate into the pulmonary interstitial space, and that will lead to pulmonary edema. So in case of LVF, there will lead to pulmonary edema. LVF will lead to accumulation of more blood in the left ventricle, increase end-diastolic volume, increase end-systolic volume, increase left atrial pressure, congestion in the pulmonary circulation, and there will be passage of fluid out, movement of fluid out of the pulmonary capillary and accumulation of fluid into the pulmonary interstitial space and leading to pulmonary edema. And there will be all kind of consequences of pulmonary edema, all kind of clinical features of pulmonary edema, which you shall learn in your clinic days. If you are interested, sometimes I can tell that also. So, left ventricular failure will lead to pulmonary edema. Now let us see what happens to right ventricular failure. So when there is right ventricular failure, blood will tend to accumulate in the right ventricle. When blood will tend to accumulate in the right ventricle, right atrial pressure will also increase. When right atrial pressure will increase, the systemic venous return will fall. Systemic venous return will increase because I told you the venous return curve, I told you. So when right atrial pressure increases, systemic venous pressure will fall. So systemic venous pressure will, venous return will increase, will decrease. So rise in less activity of right ventricle, less performance of right ventricle, right ventricular failure, leading to accumulation of blood in the right ventricle, leading to increased pressure in the right atrium, leading to decrease in venous return. And if there is decrease in venous return, blood will tend to accumulate in the systemic circulation, and that will lead to systemic vascular congestion. So there will be systemic vascular congestion, and when there is systemic vascular congestion acting by same capillary level, there will be more accumulation of fluid into the interstitial space of body tissue, and there will be edema. So again there will be edema in our body in the dependent part, first from the dependent part in feet, first in the dependent part, if we are lying down in some other places, so again there will be edema. So edema remains a cornerstone, is a classical picture of heart failure. If it is in feet, if it is in feet dependent part, it may be due to right ventricular failure, due to systemic congestion, and if it is in the pulmonary space, pulmonary extravascular or pulmonary interstitial space, it may be due to left ventricular failure. So these are the two distinct classes of heart failure. One is right heart failure or right ventricular failure, and left heart failure or left ventricular failure. And accordingly, the clinical feature will change. Accordingly, the clinical feature will change in case of, and from clinical feature, from the presentation feature of the patient, we can clearly delineate whether he or she is suffering from right ventricular failure or left ventricular failure. It is possible to discriminate, it is possible to differentiate, not that difficult. So this is about one kind of failure known as failure in terms of right ventricle or left ventricular affection. Another type of failure, another classes of failure or another classification of failure is known as forward failure and backward failure. What is forward failure and what is backward failure? Now this kind of classification is more a consequential classification. Or what I should say, a pathophysiological classification. So let us try to understand that. Suppose I am discussing about the forward failure. Let us start from left ventricle. Suppose left ventricle is suffering from failure, left ventricular failure. If left ventricle is suffering from failure, left ventricle cannot perform. Left ventricle cannot deliver adequate amount of blood to the systemic circulation, and systemic circulation is not getting adequate amount of blood. So all the organs are suffering to some extent by deprivation of blood, and they are trying to compensate. They are trying to compensate. How they can compensate? They can compensate by increasing heart rate, thereby increasing the turnover of blood, by vasoconstriction, reducing the diameter, and thereby maintaining the pressure, etc. So all these things our body will try to compensate. But somehow, still the blood perfusion to the organ may be less. Now the most important organ in this connection, as per the forward movement of blood is concerned, is kidney. So if kidney gets hypoperfused, or if kidney does not get adequate amount of blood, it will suffer from kidney hypoperfusion, kidney ischemia, and it will initiate what I have just told you in my earlier class, that activation of RAS system. So this activation of RAS system, renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system, this activation of RAS system will lead to increased reabsorption of fluid, from the tubule, kidney tubule, increased reabsorption of fluid from the kidney tubule, and increased reabsorption of sodium. So there will be increased volume of blood, and increased sodium, and all these things will add to the existing blood volume. This sodium, there will be increased sodium, and this will lead to certain consequences of heart failure. Which may not be favorable, or many a times which leads to certain unfavorable consequences. Those kind of detailed discussion is beyond the scope of this small lecture, but for the timing we remember, as a result of this forward failure, due to renal hypoperfusion, due to activation of RAS system, there will be recovery, there will be reabsorption of increased amount of fluid and sodium, which will lead to certain consequences of heart failure. Or if we think about the backward failure, let us take the example. This backward failure means if there is accumulation of blood in the left ventricle, increased pressure in the left atrium, will lead to pulmonary edema. So pulmonary edema is a consequence of backward failure. And RAS system activation leading to increased volume and sodium load into the circulation is a consequence of forward failure. So consequence of forward failure due to LVF is leading to activation of RAS system and increased volume, fluid volume and sodium, and consequence of backward failure in case of LVF is due to formation or generation of pulmonary edema. So in that way we can also classify the forward failure consequences and backward failure consequences. Same thing you can explain in terms of right ventricular failure also. Try to do that yourself. So this is second way of classification. There is another third way of classification of heart failure. What is that? Another third way of classification is output pattern. Heart failure may be a high output failure or a low output failure. What is high output failure and what is low output failure? Isn't it a bit confusing? Because time and again I have defined heart failure as that when ventricle fail to perform, fail to deliver adequate amount of blood. Then what is the issue? What is the relevance of high output failure? Let me explain that also. If you remember the complete definition of heart failure, I again recapitulate. This is very, very important. Heart failure is defined when our ventricle is failed to perform or failed to deliver the requisite amount of blood in commensurate with the metabolic need of the body. That is very important. Suppose the metabolic need of our body has increased. Suppose the metabolic need of our body has increased. Give one example, say thyrotoxicosis. Increased secretion of thyroid hormone. Now thyroid hormone or thyroxine is one of the major stimulator of metabolism. A major stimulator of metabolism. It increases oxygen consumption of almost all the tissues of the body. Thyroxine increases VO2 of almost all the tissues of the body. So it increases the metabolism. So when metabolic need increases, our ventricular performance must increase. But if ventricle cannot perform to satisfy that high level of metabolic need, in spite of its best level performance. So suppose there is thyrotoxicosis, hyperthyroidism, increased thyroxine hormone, increased metabolic need. To satisfy the metabolic need, heart is performing more and thereby increasing the cardiac output. But again, metabolic need has increased so much. Even with that increased cardiac output, that cannot satisfy that highly increased metabolic need. Then again, heart will fail even with a high output. And it satisfies the definition because I told you, incommensurate with the metabolic need. Cardiac output may increase from 5 liter to 6 liter. But again, that 6 liter of cardiac output per minute may not be sufficient, may be inadequate for increased metabolic need in a case of thyrotoxicosis. So this is a situation of high output failure. This is a situation of high output failure. This kind of high output failure we also see in case of severe anemia. Suppose person is anemic, severely anemic. Hemoglobin level may be less than 5 gram %. Hemoglobin level may be less than 5 gram %. Then how that increased oxygen demand will be met? That increased oxygen demand will be met by increasing the activity of heart. Heart will increase its activity by rate and by contractility. But even after doing that, it may not satisfy. It may not satisfy that increased oxygen need because quality of blood, hemoglobin concentration of blood has fallen so much. Even with its utmost effort, by increasing the rate and inotropic state contractility, it cannot satisfy. Then it can fail. That is known as anemic heart failure. Anemic heart failure, and that is again a high output heart failure. That is again a high output heart failure. So that is the second cause of high output heart failure. Let me give you another third cause of high output heart failure. Suppose there is a arteriovenous fistula. Suppose there is an arteriovenous fistula. A fistula like this. A fistula from an arterial side to venous side. If there is an arteriovenous fistula, then large amount of arterial blood will pass to the venous side without supplying the system. There is a abnormal situation, development for arteriovenous fistula. In that case, due to this arteriovenous fistula, large amount of arterial blood, oxygenated blood, will pass to the venous side without supplying the tissue, and tissue is suffering from hypoxia or tissue is suffering from malnutrition. Not only that, large amount of blood is quickly passed to the heart and thereby overloading the heart, and heart is pumping more by Frank Sterling's law, and even by pumping low, again that blood is again bypassed. It cannot satisfy the tissue. Again it is pumping more, but still cannot satisfy the tissue. So the metabolic need of the tissue cannot be satisfied even with utmost effort of the ventricle, and that is again another situation of high output failure. So I have told there are many other causes of high output failure. I have told you only 3 general illustration. The list is not exhaustive, it is an illustrative list. So one is thyrotoxicosis, second is a case of anemic heart failure, anemia, and third is a arteriovenous fistula, where all this high output failure we can see. And what is low output failure? That is the classical definition. I have already told you, when left ventricle, due to its inherent muscular problem, fail to perform, or inherent feeling problem, is fail to perform. So as per ventricular performance, as per the performance status of the ventricle is concerned, I have got a few more things to say. So these are some of the classification type of heart failure. Classification type of heart failure, as I told you: right heart failure, left heart failure, high output failure, low output failure, forward failure, and backward failure. And finally, let me tell you another classification of heart failure based upon the performance pattern of the ventricle. Based upon the performance pattern of the ventricle. And that is two classical type of heart failure. One is, I have already told you, systolic and diastolic. So one is a systolic failure, another is diastolic failure. That means one is a pumping failure, another is a filling failure. One is a pumping failure, another is a filling failure. Now, so much discussion I did as far as systolism and diastolism is concerned. I am not going to explain it in much detail. It is up to you, get it understood. Any problem, contact me, but I am not going to discuss all these things in very detail. I will give you certain interesting graphical representation, and I assume you will be able to understand that. To understand that, so let me return to my earlier discussion. If you remember, return to those earlier discussion. That classical so this is the ventricular performance curve, ventricular performance ETVV and stroke volume. So this is normal one, normal curve, and with this ETVV, that will be the stroke volume. Now if this is becoming this, with the same ETVV, that will be the stroke volume. So this is, I can write like that, negative inotropic state, and that is one example of heart failure. So in heart failure, this cardiac performance curve will be shifted towards right and downwards. With the same amount of stretching, with the same amount of preload, performance will be less. So this is a classical example of systolic dysfunction or systolic ventricular failure. Systolic dysfunction or systolic ventricular failure. Now to understand the diastolic failure. Now let us understand the diastolic failure. To understand the diastolic failure, let me draw that earlier pressure volume loop. So this is volume and this is pressure. If we draw the pressure volume loop, so this is the passive tension curve or passive filling curve. This is passive tension curve or filling curve, and if we draw the loop, the loop will be something like that. Can you remember? And also there was the peak isometric pressure line. So this is the loop, this is the pressure volume loop. This is the EDVV, end diastolic ventricular volume. This is the stroke volume. This is the end systolic ventricular volume. You all know this. Now we understood what is the systolic dysfunction. Systolic dysfunction may be written here also, can be represented here also. That will also shape systolic dysfunction. And what is diastolic dysfunction? diastolic dysfunction is when this diastolic function curve becomes steeper early. So it is a filling defect. So this is one kind of diastolic dysfunction. This may be another kind of diastolic dysfunction where ventricle fail to relax properly. So here the ventricle tends to stretch properly. So this is one kind of diastolic dysfunction where ventricle tend to stretch properly. Ventricle is not stretching properly, filling properly. There is another kind of diastolic dysfunction where ventricle is not relaxing properly, where the ventricle cannot relaxing properly. So there are many other types of diastolic dysfunction. I only mentioned these two types of diastolic dysfunction. One is a kind of diastolic dysfunction where ventricle cannot feel properly. There is another kind of diastolic dysfunction where ventricle cannot relax properly. And as a result of all this, net area under this curve is reduced and ventricular functioning is reduced, ventricular performance is reduced. So if we draw a curve like this, both the curves, without having such a complicated diagram of PV loop, if we draw like this, suppose this is the systolic function curve. This is the systolic function curve, and if this is the diastolic function curve, in between is the zone where the heart is acting. If there is systolic dysfunction, then that zone will be decreased. If there is diastolic dysfunction, again that zone will be decreased, and that is nothing but compromise in the ventricular performance. So this is the filling limit, this is the contractile limit. In between is the functional area where ventricular performance is taking place. If this thing is reduced in case of systolic dysfunction, and if this thing is raised in case of diastolic dysfunction, the net area in between the curve is reduced, and we can say the ventricular performance is reduced like this. So this is called systolic dysfunction, this is called diastolic dysfunction. This is the systolic curve and this is the systolic dysfunction curve. This is the diastolic curve and this is the diastolic dysfunction curve. And if we summarize, systolic dysfunction is the problem of pumping and diastolic dysfunction is the problem of filling. Systolic dysfunction is the problem of pumping performance and diastolic dysfunction is the problem of filling performance. Is either or both are damaged, the ventricle cannot deliver the requisite amount of blood incommensurate with the metabolic need of the body. Either systolic dysfunction or diastolic dysfunction or combination, in any case, ventricle will fail to deliver the requisite amount of blood incommensurate with the body need or metabolic need of the body. Be it a right heart failure or left heart failure, be it a high output failure or a low output failure, or be the consequence being the forward failure or backward failure. Everything can be understood or everything is encrypted within that classical definition of heart failure. That heart failure is defined when ventricle fail to deliver requisite volume of blood or fail to perform adequately incommensurate with the metabolic need of the body. So this is in very brief, some of the pathophysiological aspect of ventricular dysfunction or heart failure, and the simplified or rather oversimplified classification of various entities of heart failure. And in that way, in these three classes, that is the class on exercise, cardiovascular response to exercise, the class on cardiovascular response to hemorrhage, and this class on cardiovascular situation in case of heart failure. I took it one by one in a continuously, in today in the Sunday morning continuously. I tried to summarize the whole of the certain crucial aspect of cardiovascular system, what I have taught for last 21 days. And this is all for this session. I hereby conclude my discussion on cardiovascular system. I will upload all these videos today or tomorrow. You go through this video, and we have a plan to organize our first assessment test. Even in this continuous pandemic, we thought that we'll be capable of taking offline classes and offline tests, but we don't know how far we can continue that, and when and we can capable of continue our classes, physical classes. So we decided to take an online test. We will have a gap of around 10 days. After this class is over, we will have a gap of around 10 days. After 10 days, we shall take a internal assessment test in online platform, in objective evaluation mode of all the chapters what we have taught till date. So be very careful, be very particular, read all those classes and class notes we have taken, because time is quite limited, and so that you can justify your presence in the home where you are getting a lot of time for study. Any question or all the questions are welcome. Write your question in the WhatsApp group and or in some form or other. We are ready to answer all these questions. Thank you.